Today we're going to talk about context mastery, which really what I mean by that is like the conversation, or you'll hear me say the word prompt. I'm using the word prompt because the world uses the word prompt. I wish that everybody would actually just start to think of it as conversations. And when I think about prompts, a lot of what I do is even just talking with Whisperflow or some version of software that allows me to talk to Claude Code or GPT or whatever assistant that I'm using. In my case, I've graduated to what we call Echo and a whole command center, which, by the way, if you're curious about that, you can literally go and see the webinar that we did / article we wrote on second brain mastery, how to build an Obsidian AI system that actually remembers you. This is a kind of outside of that, meaning if you haven't built a system like that, you're just using a ChatGPT app, a Claude app, a whatever app, and you want to start to get a little bit more out of it. That's what this is about. Most of us humans and AI in frustration right now isn't the AI, by the way. ChatGPT just launched 5.5 a couple weeks ago. Shoot, yesterday at like 4 p.m., Claude released, or Anthropic released Opus 4.8. So the models have gotten really, really good, really, really smart. And so some of the frustrations that are still happening, as much as we don't like to own our own stuff occasionally, is actually the humans and the way the human is asking for or engaging with the actual tool. It's not that the tool isn't good. It's there's a communication breakdown between the human and the AI assistant, which is interesting because as a guy who's been around for a while, I usually see the same thing with human to human inside of organizations. It's usually a conversational breakdown. So we've got to figure out how to fix that. The fun part is humans, super difficult. AI, super easy. It's structure. And so we're going to talk about the structure for about the next half an hour or so. And so because at Sidekick Strategies for years, we've focused on making HubSpot work for humans. And today, really, I'm taking that mindset and what we do, and we're doing it where we're making AI work for you and your humans very much the same way. And so here's my promise for what you'll be able to walk away with after this half an hour or so. Sometimes I go a little long. One, you'll know exactly why your historical prompts may have been failing, falling a little flat, or could be better in the future. Two, you'll have a 6-element framework you can use the second we get done with this meeting. Three, you'll have 3 conversation patterns that turn AI from what could potentially be a vending machine into an actual teammate. And fair warning, the loop that I want you to kind of hold on to after this is in that 3 conversation pattern. Also, at kind of towards the end, not the very end, not the last slide, but towards the end, you'll want to stick around because I'm also going to throw a little PDF that I have in the chat pane. I'm going to throw it in the chat pane. Now I'm just making sure that it's still on my desktop where I put it, but I'll look for that when we get there. And so again, I'm going to give you 5 kind of prompt framework elements that you might be able to use moving forward. So with that said, why do most prompts fail? Why do most conversations with AI fail? There's a reframe that changes everything. And again, most humans, we are treating it like it's we insert a little thing and we get this like thing out, punch in a code, and you expect to, it's just going to be magic. And it's not that way. So many times I'll talk to people, especially now doing AI consulting, and they'll be like, I'll tell it to write me a blog post. It just doesn't write me a blog post. And I've got a great example that I'm going to show, by the way, during this, of like the levels of this and what people might do or try to do. But if it's just a write me a blog post, it's not going to happen. You're not going to be surprised. You're not going to be excited. It'd be like getting a snack out of a vending machine that's been sitting there for 6 years and tastes like cardboard. That's exactly what it's going to kind of be if you're not taking the time to use a framework to get what it is that you're trying to do. I want things to be better. You want things to be better. And better usually means like sharper, faster, towards my audience, understanding and seeming like it's coming from me. And what we have to really be battling against is we have to be battling against the guess. And what I mean by that is when you type in your prompt or when you conversate with Whisperflow or something like that, your prompt, the thing before you hit enter is you should be re-looking at that thing that you either spoke or that thing that you typed and ask yourself, how many guesses are left in this thing? Because the more guesses, the more it's garbage. The more garbage in, the more garbage out. We all know that. And we're battling against generic context because that's, by the way, what we're calling bad or broken is just generic context. And honestly, we can fix it very easily. The thing that I want you to lean into when we're thinking about the conversation or the prompt is a 6-element framework. And so if you think about role, if you think about context, task, format, constraints, and examples, these 6 things, that's the whole framework. It's very easy to remember. And it's how do you remember to insert those things, or how do you build a system that asks you maybe questions around those things? So, hey, I want to create this blog post. Ask me questions around this 6-piece framework so that we can create a better prompt to then have you move forward. I mean, depending on how you want to do it, you can build things around this. I will say maybe you don't need all 6 all the time, but the more that you can get these 6 into that prompt or conversation, the better it's gonna be. Okay, so I want to dive into each one a little bit deeper. Element 1, the role. You tell AI who it is. Think of it like casting an actor if we were in Hollywood. You are a seasoned email marketing strategist, or it might sound something like you are a friendly customer success coach. And that piece right there sets the perspective for everything that follows. It takes you 5 seconds to say or write something like that, but there's huge payoffs because the AI now knows from that point of view is where it should be coming. Instead of from like the average, normal thing of trying to be you or because of your custom instructions or just general piece. So again, give it a role. It's 5 seconds, huge payoff. Here's the thing that I would even ask you to think about is how do you chain roles together? Meaning, I can't tell you the amount of times when I was using ChatGPT for like the first 2 years of my AI journey where I said, hey, I want you to be a content strategist who is well versed as a writer and has also done some editing along the way. Well, what did I just do? I made a writer, content strategist, editor in one like assistant because I gave it 3 roles. So it can be one role or you can chain roles. And I want you to think about the flexibility of that, but it should know its role in the situation of what you're getting ready to prompt or do. Element 2 is context. This is highest impact element of probably all 6. Context is how you're talking to or who you're talking to, what situation they're in, and what's keeping them up at night. So the problem, the hurdle. So think of this as the audience, the scenario, and the pain point. So when you think about context being in the prompt or conversation, it's here's your role. And here's the audience, the scenario that the audience is in, and the pain points that the audience is facing. It might sound like something like, my audience is solo consultants who are overwhelmed by tech and short on time. Okay, so again, it can be a simple line, but it's holding those 3 elements. Because again, the more your AI knows about who's on the other end, the more it can write for a human instead of everyone. We've said this as content strategists and writers for years where it's like, write to Bob or write to Jenny. And as much as we can kind of get it to write to Bob or to Jenny, which by the way is very easy if you're actually doing something inside of a CRM that has the capabilities to do that. But at least in your assistant, you can kind of try to get as close to that. And if you only improve one thing after today based on this, seriously, make it this idea of audience, scenario, pain point, aka context. I will also say there's a flip of the coin on this one, because as you can tell, I'm saying context of that human, but I think there's another side of this coin, which is the context that is us as a human, which again, I don't need to bring it back up, but that obsidian second brain context for who we are, our identities. What I will say is we have done other things in this series where you might want to go and check out like building the identity and things like that, because now we've got the other side of the coin where you might say, hey, my audience is this, the scenario is this, the pain points are this. By the way, pick up the George B. Thomas identity and use some of my stories from the story bank. If you're like, what? Go watch the identity one. If you're cool, then cool, we're going to move on. Element 3 is task. In other words, what in the world are you going to do? Like, now, this is where kind of sometimes we stop too early. We give it an action, but we skip the intent of the action. And so I want you to think about that. The task isn't just write this blog article, as my example before. The task is the action and the why behind it. So task and why. Are you trying to educate? Are you trying to persuade? Are you trying to build trust, motivate? What is that? Because if you were going to use something like educate someone who's skeptical of the thing that we're going to write about, or persuade somebody who's ready to buy, those two things along the task of writing that blog article are completely different pieces. So always pair the action with intent. Okay, so those are the two words that I want you to put with the element of task is action and intent. So it might look like this. Write this to build trust with someone who's been burned by AI before, right? So that little why steers the whole rest of that task or that conversation that you're having. Okay. Element number 4 that I want you to think about is format. Tell your AI assistant the shape you want, length, structure, sections, paragraph rules. I live in a world where I literally have a skill that is a /Google Eat skill that does some of this for me. But what I want you to think about is it might sound something like 600 words. It's really short, but whatever. 3 short sections, no paragraphs longer than 3 sentences. Like, if you don't say the shape, you get whatever shape it decides to put out. If you don't talk about like headers, no emojis, like whatever, you don't know what you're going to get. It's like, what's the slot machine, in Vegas or whatever. Let's see what it spits out. But if you take the 5 seconds and give it the format, I like long and short sentences. I minimal bullet points only when helping to explain additional things. Like, get into that level of format because it's going to save you 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes of reformatting the thing, which again, then you're like, this thing's busted or broken or dumb. No, we've got to give it element 4, which is the format, the output that we want to see when we get there. Number 5 is going to be constraints. Again, this is huge. These are the rules, right? And in life, I've got a buddy, I used to work with him, Remington Begg. He always talked about goalposts and guardrails. And so you've got to have the guardrails. You've got to have the constraints, the rules. And most of the time we miss this, right? We don't take the time to tell AI the not to do. And some of them can be powerful, like just saying, hey, don't use any jargon, don't use any acronyms, don't be salesy, don't start with certain words, whatever it is. But the negatives are gold because they cut off kind of any generic paths or things that you don't want to be in there. And it helps AI not wander off into these like weird places that sometimes you'll find it head off to. And so just don't say you what you want, but also say what you never want. And by the way, I have some rules. If you get outside of, into a project, you could have rules of words never to use. If you build a system like the second brain, you could have rules for this. But if you're still just using ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, Claude, whatever, these are definitely things that you want to put in those individual prompts or conversations that you're having with it. Okay. Number 6 is examples. Show the AI what right looks like, or you're right, or you're correct, or what you've done something. Paste in a paragraph you wrote. Show it a historical blog article that you loved. Say things like maybe match this voice, match this style. Again, I don't do a lot of match this voice because I literally have identities. That sounded weird. I have one identity. My AI assistant has many identities that I can pull from, of me being in training, me being writing an article, things like that. But here's the thing. This is what, if you want to try to get a one shot, right? Hey, I want to one shot this bad boy. This is the fastest way to get there because it's literally going to know, here's an example. Here's the directions in which I should look at that example. And now it sounds like you, it writes the output you want. It's very much less like a robot and really like a dope assistant or intern who is educated on this. Okay. If you want to do things like paste a sample of what you've written or things like that, it's going to help. So those are the 6 elements that we need to kind of pay attention to. And so what happens when we start to stack all 6? So role, let's kind of, these are the words that I might use as an example. So role would be something like you're an email marketing coach. The context is my audience is solo consultants drowning in tools. The task is educate them so they feel calm and capable, not sold to. The format might be 600 words, 800 words, 3 tips, and keep them to be short paragraphs. The constraints might be no jargon, not salesy, and with one clear action step. And the examples would be, here's a paragraph in my voice or article, match it, read that back, and feel the difference. And so we went from this like one line code, human punch, feeling like a vending machine to like mini set structured framework that shapes how we actually interact with AI. What's great about this, you build this prompt, you can hand this off to teammates. Teammates start to get the same results as you, right? And so now everybody in the team, because we're using this framework of role, task, context, format, constraints, examples, and we can kind of bake out ones that we know that the team's going to use over and over. Now all of a sudden we're getting different output across multiple humans, and that's a whole different game. Eric, do you have a question?
Yeah, this is this framework's great. Is this framework something that you use for multiple clients? Is this like the framework?
So this is the framework. It can be used for us or for clients. I will show you in my example a way that I dip to what I'll call the next level of this, where I take what I'm showing with this role or with this framework and also with what I have with the second brain. And I'll show you like, here's what people usually do. Here's what you can do with the framework. And then here's what you could do with the second brain. And Eric, the biggest part of the second brain is identities and stories. And you see what that does to the
Okay.
actual outcome. But yes, no matter what I'm working on, these are the things that I'm always thinking about in the back of my head to get a better result.
And then my last question
Mhm.
regarding this is, I know you mentioned input as much as you can, which makes
Yep.
sense.
Yep.
I guess my question would be, what is the bare minimum?
Mm.
The reason I'm asking that is because I've always found that I never know when enough is enough.
I mean, honestly, I don't know if that's the right focus. I'm never looking for the bare minimum. I'm always trying to give it the maximum amount of context or information to direct it in the best way. And this is gonna maybe get weird. I don't mean for it to get weird, but like if you're working with a human, if you're a good boss, you're going to give them all of the things that you can give them so that you know that they end up with a successful outcome. If you don't, then you're probably not a really great boss, and that human is going to get irritated. Now, I don't know if AI can really get irritated at you, but the idea is if you conversate with what you feel it needs and you've given it all you can give it, most likely the output you're going to get is way better than the mindset of, well, what's the minimal viable product that I can give this AI machine to spit something out that I can just ship and put lipstick on a pig and hope for the best.
Gotcha.
You,
Okay.
you see what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. All right. So 3 conversation patterns that we need to pay attention to, because I think this levels up over that framework. Again, to get out of the one shot or the kind of vending machine thing and get to one shot. Number 1, the interview flip. You tell AI before you answer, ask me 5 questions to get the context you need. So imagine giving it that prompt, and at the very end of that prompt, you saying that I need you to interview me. So now AI pulls the context out of you instead of guessing, because, and Eric, this might go to your question. What's the minimal viable that I can give? And then end my prompt with interview me for any gaps that I haven't given you, right? Number two, the redirect loop. You never accept version one. You always give specific feedback. So send it back a second time. Hey, this is great. How would you make it better? Maybe not like that, but I want you to think prompt, review, redirect, and refine. So think of redirect loop. Number three is the mirror. Tell AI, now put on the editor's hat, critique what you just wrote, then rewrite it. I literally have an agent called Finch, who is my editor, that I do this mirror with. Hey, now have Finch go through as the editor and critique and rewrite, or give Quinn, the agent writer, the rewrite rules to go for it. So these three things help you get to AI to where it's looking at its own work and it improves it. So I want you to think interview, flip, redirect loop, and mirror, and you can run all three of those as you kind of do this. And so if you think about this, the one is like iterate, never accept version one. Write that on a sticky note on your computer, put it on your whiteboard if you're sitting next to one. Like this, again, this is the middle one I talked about. But if there's nothing else, again, that you do from this, it's like just make sure iteration is a mindset that you have moving forward, working with your AI assistant. You may get to the point where it's one shots and this, and then you're off to the races. But we've got to have this thing of it's less about two. Like, I don't want you to do this. I don't want you to hear me say iterate, never accept version one and go, sweet. George said never take version one. Make it better. That's not what I'm talking about. That gets nothing. I want you to think about things like, because you're looking at the output, the opening of this is too generic. Start with a question instead. Now that gets like real improvement. And so think about the things you know from like the best practices of hooks or things like that. Don't give it vague feedback, because vague doesn't fix anything. Specificity wins the day. So specific feedback will help fix the things that need to be fixed. So here's a prompt almost everybody has probably written at some point in time as they've got started with AI. Write me a blog post about email marketing. That's it. That's the whole prompt. And it's terrible. All right. So again, if you think about these 6 things, there's no role, there's no task, there's no constraints, there's no nothing. This is why prompts are failing. And I want to go ahead and just show you real quick what this kind of looks like if this is the journey you're on. So what I did is I put in here, I said, hey, by the way, I had to tell it to ignore something. I had to put constraints in. I said, ignore the main brain. That's our thing that we talked about earlier. For this example prompt, please write me a blog post about email marketing. That's all I did. Please show me the output here. So you can see this is like every few years, someone declares email dead. Social algorithms shift, a new message app gets hot, and I would never use that word. Whatever. I wouldn't use that word. Immediately, I'm like, nope, this is not me. This is, okay. So it doesn't look terrible, right? It paid attention to some things. It did some things. But what I want to do is I want to say, like, what's the next layer of this? And so notice with this prompt, what I did is I said, hey, please ignore the main brain for the example. But now I put in the roles, because that one didn't have any roles. It didn't have context. So you're an email marketing coach. My audience is solo consultants who are overwhelmed by tech and short on time. Write a 600-word blog post that educates them and leaves them feeling calm and capable. Use 3 short sections with 3. You see the thing. Place the output here and use this article as my example and my voice. I did that because of this training. I usually don't do it that way. I'll show you the way that I usually do it. Notice I didn't go into plan mode on purpose for any of these, but there's another thing that if you haven't used plan mode when doing things with Claude code particularly, you want to do that. I'm trying to get the closest to in-app results, even though I really don't use the app that much. And so you can see here, let me tell you something that should make your shoulders drop. The problem was never that you aren't tech savvy enough. The problem is that you've been handed too many tools and told they all matter. They don't. Most of them are noise. Now, this is starting to sound like me. It's also starting to sound like something I would send out to the audience. And it's also a little bit shorter than the one previously because we gave it the constraint of 600 words. Now, here's the refining. Notice what I did here. The opening is too generic. Start with a question that names their frustration and put on the editor's hat. Find the weakest sentence and rewrite it sharper. Please rewrite the above. Ignore main brain. Again, that's just me telling it not to be smart, which is made me sad when I had to actually tell it that. But anyway, ever end a workday exhausted only to realize you spent more time wrestling your tools than serving your clients? If so, let me tell you something that should make your shoulders drop. The problem was never that you aren't tech savvy enough. The problem is that you've been handed too many tools and told they all matter. Like, you can see the difference. Like, that's more of a hook. The question is bringing them in. And what's fun is down here, it editors notes on the weakest sentence. Now, here's the thing that I love to do as well, is I love to, when I'm working on content, I love to tell it to do things like, hey, and after you do this thing, maybe give me a SWOT analysis or tell me what you changed or give me ideas of like, so like you can get the thing you want and then also get like conversational feedback and thoughts. But I love this. The flabbiest line was, you need a few that fit your hands working quietly. And so it turned it into this. Okay. Now, here is the example of how I usually do things. I finally said, now I want you to rewrite the article above and use the main brain, meaning it's using all the context of who I am, identities. Use Quinn, the writing agent, by the way, and the super writer skill as well. And pick up the George B. Thomas identity and use our story bank items to pull in a relevant personal or professional story. Activate mentor challenger George B. Thomas. Okay, so I want you to understand like that next level on top of what I just talked about as far as the framework. And so now we get in here and we're like, ever finish a workday wiped out? That's how I talk. I'm just saying. Only to realize you spent more hours fighting your tools than helping the humans, not people, humans who actually pay you. Here's the thing. The problem was never that you're not tech savvy enough. The problem is that you've been handed a pile of tools, not too many tools, a pile of tools, and told every single one of them matters. Let me be real honest with you. I've been the overwhelmed one too. Before I ever became the HubSpot guy, okay, so hopefully you can see now it's going into a story and it's good. I was a chameleon bouncing from bouncer to youth pastor to designer to video editor, grabbing every new tool and role I could. Sure, the next one would finally make me feel capable for the, anyway. So the difference is now all of a sudden this is going to be able to bring your perspective. It's going to be in your voice. And so this is just how you get a way better results. So notice behind the build, story woven in George's many hats career journey. George filter, clear, scene, safe, smart per section. Constraints honored, 600 words, 3 sections, 3 tips, 3 sentence paragraphs. Quinn flagged one option. If you ever want a sidekick branded version with a soft CTA at the end, that can be added without disturbing the calm and capable tone. In other words, my agent is saying, hey, homie, we ain't selling nothing right now, but if you ever want to do that, we can make it happen. So I want you to think about how do you use this framework and how do you do things like blog articles, social repurposing, things like that. Yes, Eric, do you have a question?
When I have Claude write something for me, I find myself going back, rereading, rereading, tweaking this, that, and the other. Have you gotten your main brain or whatever you call it, have you gotten it to a point where you don't even read anymore, or do you read everything still?
Let me give you the honest answer. I've never really read anything. Let me explain, because that sounds really bad of like, he's just putting slop out. Eric, what I've done is I usually put an audio player on each page I create. And so when I create a page, I put an audio player on it and I get it to read it to me. So I'll listen to it and kind of my eyes will scan it. So my answer to you is yes, I'm looking at / reading each thing, but I'm really listening to it and envisioning if I was like somebody else, what would I tweak? Then I'll make some tweaks. Blah, 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 blah. And then when I finally get it done, then I'll rerun the audio. So it's like got a new version of the audio, but that's my process.
You do review it though.
Oh
Like
God,
every,
yes,
okay.
yes, yes. Because, and here's the thing, which by the way, I just put the prompt PDF in the chat pane so everybody can download that before you hop off of here. I always am gonna look at it, read it, listen to it, whatever. Because I'm looking at this point, though. By the way, the only thing that I really have to look for is sometimes it'll say that like I've been in the HubSpot space for 15 years. It's been 14. Sometimes it'll call segments, lists. HubSpot changed the name. Sometimes it'll mention something that's been sunset, right? So I'm looking for the things that the internet or the brain hasn't been changed or updated on more than anything else. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which also, by the way, it just to me is then a thing of like, I've got to go train it. So like, I can't tell you like I have HubSpot is HubSpot kills me because their updates, like there's 18 a week or 28 a week. And so one of the systems that we put into place so I didn't have to keep training the brain individually was we literally have the team put HubSpot updates into a system I built that writes HubSpot update articles. So then the brain gets taught on the HubSpot update article, like the articles. And so we're training it every day with 7 to 10 new HubSpot updates. So when we go to write content, it like has all that context in its brain already.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. I know we're a little bit over. I should really just make these things 45 minutes. I swear to God. Anyway, compound effect here to think about. It's really why it matters. Like this all compounds. You do the 6-piece framework, you do the 3 conversation patterns. And then when you're building a prompt, all of a sudden you're building something that works Monday, it works Tuesday, it works always. And Eric, we get to the point that I just talked about where it literally is, I'm just there to tweak a few little tiny things because it is 95%, 98% ready to hit the publish button and take it live to the humans. Because for me, it comes down to I'm creating this content so I can get to time to first value to help a human. And I'm also always looking at it, Eric, because the minute that I don't look at it and it says something dumb, I'm eroding my brand. And every piece of content should be building the brand. So think helping humans, building brand, and that editing process to get it to the point. Our goal is just to try to get it to that 95 or 100. I don't know if 100%, 95, 98% ready to go. So what I want you guys to do this week is take something that you do every week, apply the framework to it, apply the conversational patterns to it, and see where you can get from what used to be your output to what is your output moving forward. I'll open it up for any questions. If you have questions, go for it. If not, you can take off, enjoy the rest of your Friday. As always, it has been fun to bring some hopefully valuable and new information to your brains.